Hi everyone, I'm Mike King, creator of Profiling Evil. I want to take a moment and send a big shout out to our friends at Court TV. I'm really grateful for the chance that they've given me to appear on Crime Time with Vinnie Politan and my friend Chris McDonough.
All right, folks, it's Crime Time here on Closing Arguments. Let's introduce tonight's guests. Joining us, former homicide detective Chris McDonough. Chris has been in public safety for more than 35 years. He spent nearly 25 years with the Oceanside Police Department, including 13 years as a homicide detective. He's a member of the investigative team of the Cold Case Foundation and is also a host of Profiling Evil, a great podcast on YouTube. Also with us, retired police officer Mike King. Mike has served for more than 4 decades in law enforcement. He was also a chief of staff to the Utah Attorney General. He is currently the director of fraud and emergency communication at a global geographic information systems company. And he also is a host of Profiling Evil on YouTube. Chris and Mike, great to see you both tonight. Welcome back. We begin in Modesto, California, in the Modesto Police Department. Some video of officers shooting an unarmed suspect.
Hi, can I get the police to my house?
What address? What's going on there?
My brother bought a gun last night, and he said that he's walking over here and just to watch what happens to us.
I'm sorry, he did what?
He bought a gun last night, and he said that he is coming over.
What's your brother's name?
Trevor Seaver.
Shortly after receiving the 911 call, staff in our real-time crime center recognized Mr. Seaver's name and remembered a recent officer safety bulletin about him. In early December, detectives became aware of extremely concerning posts on Mr. Seaver's Instagram account. The post stated that a good cop is a dead cop, and all I want for Christmas is another dead MPD officer.
Get on the ground! Get on the ground! 05, shots fired. Show me your hands!
05, copy, shots fired.
I'm behind the park. Show me your hands! Put your hands up! I'm behind the church, west side of the complex. Show me your hands! Put your hands up!
Mr. Seaver was transported to a local hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. A search was conducted at the scene, and no weapon or firearm was located.
Okay, no weapon found. You heard the call that came into police, the information that they had, but did the officer respond appropriately here? Chris, I'll start with you.
You know, Vinnie, this is a tough one for a couple of reasons. Yes, you've got the officer safety concerns. You've got the RP, saying, hey, my brother bought a gun. He wants to see what happens. But then you have the officer, he's got to be a good, 75 yards away. And I don't know what the threat assessment is at that point. So when he gets closer, you can clearly see the subject has his hands up in the air and he discharges again as one of the arms appears to be coming down. But it's a tough call on this one. I've got some other information that we can talk about later.
Sure. Mike, your thoughts?
Well, I think first we have to know what the officer knew, and we obviously know that up front he was told that the person has a gun, is going to the house. They have previous threats against law enforcement safety, so he clearly is justified in elevating the level of threat that he places. But man, this thing happens fast. As he exits the vehicle, and within 6 seconds he's rounding the corner, which tells me that he saw something and this subject takes off running and he has to try to close the gap. But like Chris said, I mean, that is an awfully long shot to be taking and an awfully big distance in order to be making some determinations of whether there's a gun. It looks like the guy is at least sideways or walking away. Don't know what he may have seen that got him thinking that he had to fire, but it looked like about the third round is the one that hits the subject the first time. But once he's on the ground, I think this is really interesting, Vinnie, because he does get his hands up at about 17 seconds into this thing. And by 21 seconds, the subject drops his hands down, again, his right hand down. And of course, we don't know if he's right-handed or left-handed. Could have been just feeling the wounds that he had. But then within 4 seconds, he brings it up rapidly, and then the officer discharges his weapon again. So I think it's one that, with everything, is going to probably end up justifiable. But again, when we think about what the officer has in his history, and the fact that this guy was a long ways away, and was he an immediate threat to the officer? Perhaps not. To others, maybe that's the thing that needs to be asked.
All right, we'll continue to track this one to see how the investigation develops. We got another story tonight from WKBW in Buffalo, New York. Armed bounty hunters storm the wrong home.
Open it up and we're kicking in.
With guns drawn in the middle of a cold winter's night,
Let's go, buddy.
home security video captures armed bounty hunters, finger on the trigger, pointing a gun at Seneca Babcock resident Jake Reinhardt on his property on Oakdale Place.
Up until that point, I just thought that there was a mistaken address, so I opened the door to hopefully correct whatever mistake they made.
Barefoot and barely clothed, Reinhardt says he was ordered to leave his home. You can see him walking out on the porch, visibly shaken.
My 3-year-old daughter is in there and my wife's in the back sleeping.
The bounty hunters from Pennsylvania point a gun at Reinhardt as he can be heard asking them to put the gun down.
Please put the barrel of the gun down, please.
Let's go.
They ask where his relative is, the person they're looking for.
Does not reside here, has never lived in this house.
Still, the hunters enter the home anyway.
Do you have a search warrant for this house? Yes, I do. Can I see it? Can I see it?
But they ask him to step aside, not producing any paperwork, instead walking through the home with guns drawn. The raid didn't stop there. Reinhardt says the armed men then went upstairs to his tenant's apartment, where there were other children, including a baby. This time, the armed men were caught on baby camera with their guns drawn.
This is the absolute worst I've ever seen.
Our Anthony Rupp III is representing Reinhardt in a civil lawsuit filed in U.S. federal court for civil rights violations.
The bounty hunters do not have carte blanche to break into the homes of relatives, friends, and acquaintances of the fugitive they're seeking.
Reinhardt says he hasn't seen this relative in person in over a year, and the relative never lived at the home, nor was the home listed on any bond paperwork.
Well, the most outrageous thing to me is that the Buffalo police assisted them in this, assisted them in committing multiple felonies.
To kind of kick me while I was down, just the disrespect and disregard for my family and my home, it was very unsettling.
All right, how could this have been avoided? It strikes me as kind of wrong. You got bounty hunters from Pennsylvania, and I know sometimes they got to track down, people. But this, Chris, could this have been avoided in some way? Does someone else have to do some due diligence here?
Yeah, Vinnie, I think this is one of those cases where it's a huge breakdown in communication. I mean, you've got the PD and you've got these bounty hunters. And they're standing off to the side while these guys are just pointing tactical shotguns at anybody. You notice the cops don't have their weapons drawn. So, yeah, this was a huge breakdown in protocol, in my opinion.
Yeah, Mike, I'm kind of shocked here that bounty hunters from out of state are drawing weapons, and in the end, they're in a house where the person they're looking for is not there, never was there.
Yeah, I think the police department has some splaining to do on this one as to why they allowed the bounty hunters to take over and actually run this. And like Chris said, they're standing down there. They don't even have their weapons out of their holsters. So you've got these guys not only going into the house with shotguns, they're going into a house that they know is not the owner or the person that they're pursuing. And then they let the homeowner go back into an area that they're considering really a high threat because they've got their shotguns out. I mean, the whole thing is just really raising a lot of questions and concerns in my mind as well.
All right, don't go anywhere, folks. We've got more Crime Time straight ahead, plus this. Welcome back to Crime Time. Our guests still with us, Mike King, Chris McDonough, law enforcement professionals and the co-hosts of Profiling Evil on YouTube. Next story from WTMJ in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. A 22-year-old killed over designer glasses.
Candles, balloons, and a massive outpouring of support for 22-year-old Purcell Pearson. The amount of people showing love, too much even for the sidewalk in which he took his last breath.
My nephew was not just a body laying on the street bleeding out. It was a great deal more to Purcell than that.
City Attorney Tierman Spencer is Purcell's uncle. He says the love his nephew received, even in the freezing cold, is a representation of the positive life he lived.
He was selfless. He always put others first.
Spencer says his nephew died early Saturday afternoon while trying to sell a pair of designer glasses. A pair of designer glasses listed on Purcell's Facebook page just days before the shooting.
I don't think for one moment he thought that trying to provide these glasses that someone would rob him and take his life.
Spencer says he's very confident police have the information they need to solve this case. In the meantime, he urges anyone who knows anything to speak up.
Just imagine if this was your brother, sister, or mother. What would you do? What would you want to know? There is never a right to take someone's life.
All right, how would you approach this investigation? Mike King, beginning with you.
Oh, well, number one, doesn't this look like just an amazing young man? I think you got to first and foremost go back and look at all of the social media things. Look at Facebook Marketplace and look who's making the connections there. It's also a great reminder to us, Vinnie, that we got to be really careful. We don't know people that are buying from us through social media. And that's why we see so many police departments that even say, come to our lobby to make the exchange or do whatever. You got to really use wisdom in how you're going to conduct those transactions. But the secret and the key to this one is going to be those transactions and the information they get through IP addresses.
Chris, do you see this as one that can be solved?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with Mike. And, you know, this is one of those tragedies. The other piece of this puzzle will also be to scrape some of the tower pings to put the subject, you know, at the scene of the crime. Show the social media scrapes and all the other information is going to be critical, and they'll solve it. They'll solve this one.
All right, our final story comes to us from Katuni County, Idaho. I hope I said it right. A now viral video shows Sheriff Robert Norris reaching for his mace after asking an unidentified civilian to step back several times. The unidentified man was recording a traffic stop involving another individual before Norris asked him to step back several times and then raised the bottle towards the man. The video was later posted on North Idaho Exposed YouTube channel and has been viewed more than 37,000 times. Take a look, folks.
Our officer's safety, I'm asking you to step back.
No. For his safety, the crime that you're committing, I'm going to stay right here.
And here's what I'm going to do. If you don't step back, I'm going to take further action. I'm the sheriff of this county, and I'm asking you to step back.
So the sheriff of this?
I'm asking you to step back.
No, you're telling me.
I'm asking you to step back.
I'm on a sidewalk. You can't tell me to step back.
On our traffic stop, creating an officer. Step back.
So what's your name and your badge number? You can't.
I told you once. I'm not going to keep doing this. Step back now. Do you understand me?
All right.
You understand me? Step back.
You're not going to
step back. Thank you.
You're in trouble. What's your name and your badge?
Right
like how far? How far?
Right there. Stay right there.
All right. What's your name and badge number? He's the sheriff. He's the sheriff of the county. All right. Who's right and who is wrong here? Chris, I'll start with you.
You know, Vinnie, I'm going to go bingo card for 100 on the sheriff. He's the right guy. He has a right, to conduct his business under the law. And that citizen has the right to record, but he does not have the right to interfere during the commission of a lawful stop. That's a problem.
Mike, how do you see this one?
100% agree. I mean, this is so outrageous. Not only is he obstructing a police officer trying to perform a lawful duty, but he should be arrested for disorderly conduct too.
All right, Mike King and Chris McDonough, always great to have you two on. Again, folks, go on YouTube, check it out, Profiling Evil. It's awesome. We'll have you guys back real soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Vinnie. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks for supporting Profiling Evil. Make sure you check out our website at profilingevil.com, and we'll see you soon.